Hello and good morning for all of you who are joining us. We're going to take a couple minutes, let people come in, and we will start right at 12 o'clock. So thank you as you're joining, and we will get started very shortly.
Hello. I see him coming in the room.
Yes.
I'm not a huge fan of the webinar version.
That's
You can't see all the attendees. I like the meeting version, and this extrovert likes to see people. I'm missing humans, so I survived the webinar version where I visualize all of you over there in the attendee section as if you're like real people on the screen with me, which is not as fun.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that is an adaptation as you get creative and imagining all of the attendees that you can't see in certain mediums to be right there with you.
what headset do I use? I use one of the really standard ones. It's a Logitech. I think it's a 1080. Hold on. It doesn't say, but it's actually nothing fancy, and it's incredibly comfortable because I wear it all day long now. And I asked for it for my husband, who's a gamer. That's who you got to ask for what headset to get, because they always wear the really comfortable ones. I'll share my screen. I see we're about at time, huh?
Wonderful. Yes, we are at 12, and in the interest of time, we will get started. So welcome, and thank you so much for tuning in to Webinar for Busy Lawyers. These webinars are designed to bring you practical information in just 20 to 30 minutes. And by practical, we mean that you can implement what you learn here in your practice immediately. Today, I have the absolute pleasure and honor of introducing Charity Anastasio. Charity is a practice management advisor for the American Immigration Lawyers Association, or ILA. She was in private practice for 5 years in the greater Seattle area before she entered the Bar Association world, where she has helped lawyers overcome their practice management hurdles for 5 years. Charity is a shameless ethics nerd and practice management advisor. She advises on ethics and practice management issues through consultations, publications, presentations, and was named an ABA Women of Legal Tech honoree last year. And it is an absolute delight to have Charity here. Before I turn it over to Charity, I'd like to let you know that we will have time at the end to take questions from attendees. So I encourage you to put your questions into the chat function. We'll get through as many of them as we can, keeping in mind that our speaker has to leave before 1 o'clock as she has other engagements. We will attend to the questions at the end. And so I would like to turn it over to Charity to tell us about becoming a pro Zoomer. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Laura. That's a very nice introduction. I think my bio is a little old because I've actually been doing this work for 7 years now. So got to revamp that, don't I? I'm excited to talk about Zoom and how to use it, even if you're on another platform like GoToMeeting, Teams video, Skype, Google Hangouts, many others. Legaler is another one. Even if you're on those platforms, a lot of these tips are still going to be helpful for you. Some of the really specific ones about using Zoom itself, maybe not so much, except that it gives you an idea of what the features you should be adept at using are. And I'm going to talk some about those features and some about how to run a good meeting, how to be a good video participant, because really, a lot of it is just having the right communication for this medium. And I do love questions, so don't be shy about asking those questions. So we're going to officially, this is what we're going to cover. We are going to look at our best, look your best online, right? Create a secure meeting or invitation on the fly. Get effective at sharing your screen and getting those things done that you need to get done in the meeting. You know, Zoom and any of these video conferencing platforms are wonderful for having working meetings with your clients or anyone that you want to get things done with as you're talking, and helping client staff and yourself overcome technical challenges with poise, because I think one of the greatest challenges is just feeling less secure than you want to feel in this platform. The reason why we do this is because we do not want to become a potato on the screen and be stuck like that. This is a few months ago. I laughed for a good half an hour about this, though. I thought it was really funny. There she is, resigned to staying a potato, resigned to her fate. It's just, uh, it's just one of those things that you think, oh gosh, that's going to happen to me. I don't want it to happen to me in front of the judge, right? Lord, let's not do this in the middle of our deposition. How do I make sure that doesn't happen? The easiest way is to just make sure you don't go putting funny filters on your platform, on your account, okay? So, practice makes perfect. And we know that because we know that we make good arguments in court when we practice the arguments beforehand. And we write best when we rewrite and rewrite. And this is no different. You really want to get in and play with the features. Everything that I'm going to show you is going to be helpful, but it's not as helpful if you don't get in there and work with it. And by the way, there's tons of resources. Zoom has a great website for information. They lay it out pretty cleanly. They're not always going to tell you everything, though, in a video. I'm working on a breakout session issue right now. I'm going to do that later today. And I was just reviewing their 3-minute video, which gives me some basics, but it doesn't tell me everything. I really have to go in there and mess around with it. And I think it's really important to understand when you're working with any population, whether it's your staff or your clients who aren't necessarily as adept at using it as you are, that you be calm about how it is that you deal with them about it. And I found this is really helpful. I've moved all my consultations to Zoom meeting now. And they have the links for either a phone or getting online with me on the video conference. And I have a few people struggle with it. And I've just gotten used to, I re-invite them through the email if they're not on at the time that they're supposed to be there. When they get on, and if they're having sound issues, I use the chat. I direct them to the chat, or I call them or have them call me so that we can talk about it. And then I suggest some different alternatives for them on the platform that they're using. And I understand what it looks like for them in various different platforms that they could be in. If they're on their if they're on their cell phone, their iPhone, their iPad, if they're using the web version, or if they actually have an account, it's all a little bit different, right? So you just want to be able to do as much testing as you can and understanding what they're going through, and just stay calm with it and work it a little bit into the meeting. Figure if you have somebody that you think is a new user, make sure that you have an extra 10 minutes in that meeting. Give them those different options too. Give them the phone number so they can call you if they're just most comfortable being on the phone. You can still be on Zoom, but they won't. I like this one. It's these blessed folks that I work with have been used in many different presentations. You can tell right up there, Matt is in the corner. He's the alien administrator. He's our IT person because he has his little headset and he's all set up with tech all over the place. I like it for seeing what people look like in different environments. Janet down here is on an iPad. That's what it looks like when you're on an iPad. It also is what you look like when you put the camera down below you, right? Joy is on her phone. So you can always see the side slats when somebody is on their phone. This is what they look like when they've turned off their camera. A phone just has a phone number. So that gives you an indication of how they're coming in. And then Trina over here with her son, who was getting used to using Zoom so they could start doing school, joked that they were in the witness protection program. And that's one thing that you don't want to do with your video, because it does, when you do that backlighting behind you, it does make you look dark and it's hard for people to see you. Now, you don't have to, I think, look as polished as somebody that's on CNN right now, but you do want to look professional. I'm maybe a little bit more, you know, mellow than some people, but you can put a background too on your platform, and I believe I show that in my slides. If not, we can talk about it in a minute. And I see some things coming in the chat, and that's great. Keep on bringing questions in. So I mentioned you can have a backdrop, but you know, those backdrops that are images don't work great if you have a camera that's not really nice, like mine. I have a laptop and it's kind of an camera. And then I use a Logitech one, and it too, it's one of the ones that works on everything, but it doesn't look fabulous, right? And if I put one of those images behind me, it looks juddery and funny. And so I think it's actually easier. It's easier on my Wi-Fi bandwidth to get a nice space behind me. And mine isn't, you know, maybe the very, very best, but I think this picture is one that's really pretty nice. Think about your lighting, your microphone. One of my most important things is a headset. Somebody asked me about what headset I use, and I tell you, it's the only thing that's made it possible for me to work from home with my son and my husband up there also working and learning from home. When I put the headset on, they know that I'm on. Uh, I might wear it even when I'm not sometimes, but that's between us. Make sure that you have a video camera that works well. Doesn't have to be super well done unless you're actually going to be doing videos that you want to put online and you want them to be really sharp. Think about your audio speakers, background noise. You need a stable internet connection, and you might have to spend a little bit more to get the right connectivity for this to be an effective part of your practice. And then I think it's nice to have a look. I read an article that said you shouldn't prop up certain books behind you. And I see that on CNN and different newscasters right now. They do lots of interesting things behind them. I think that is maybe a little cheesy. I do think, though, that this is space behind you that you could advertise your business in some way or who you are in some way. And, you know, somebody who thinks about that, my mom does therapy. She has these nice little flowers next to her when she does her Zoom therapy calls. So think about what you want to portray. It doesn't have to be super planned, but it should have something that really inspires your professionalism and also your character. Security is a big issue for everybody. I think that it was kind of a good thing for Zoom to get super popular and then get lambasted for not having the best security. And they've done a lot of things, number of patches to fix this. They've made passwords a big part of what it is that they're doing. But there are a few things that I want to kind of point out. This is safer than Word documents and other documents that you have, as long as you're not recording. If you are recording and you're concerned about who your client is, then you need to make sure that you record with a third-party product. And you'll want to look into that on the Zoom website. It's actually kind of a cost benefit analysis like any of our technology. You want to weigh the price, the usability of whatever product you're going to use, the security features that exist with it, and then you know, similar users and how they're going to use it. And one of the reasons that I've landed on Zoom is I've used probably all the top 6 video conference programs, and some of them are harder than others. Some of them just really, I find that they're not very easy for people to learn. And when I could teach my Luddite mother in 15 minutes how to use this product, I knew you'd have to peel it out of my cold dead hands because it's just that easy. So think about whether it's usable and easy for your folks that you're working with. and can they handle it? If you're really, really concerned about that security though, the two alternatives down there, Legaler and Doxy, are both encrypted. Legaler is designed for lawyers. Doxy is designed for physicians who are doing meetings. And that gives you an alternative that you can look at if you're concerned about security issues. So this is the most basic part of what it looks like when you first log on. You can start a new meeting. You can join a meeting. You can schedule one from here. You can share your screen and you can mess around with your settings from this place. I always go into Scheduler. That's the place that I use the most. Scheduling a meeting is pretty straightforward. You put in your start date, your time, how long that meeting is. By the way, it won't cut you off unless you're in a webinar version. It won't cut you off at the end of that hour. It just gives you how long it's actually going to work into your calendar. You can either generate automatically, means it's going to generate a certain code that is just for that meeting, or you can just use your personal meeting ID, which is like your phone number in Zoom video conferencing. Or right in this section. Right in this section here. You can also set it as a reoccurring meeting above there. You can require a password for this meeting. Once you click this, it will automatically put a password into your address, but you can pull that out and you can change that password so that it is unique to your client. Every time you go into your portal or into our video conferencing system, you're going to use this same password, for example. And that just heightens the security because it's not just a link. And, when you started hearing about things like Zoom bombing, that is people coming into a meeting that they're not invited to. That's one of the reasons that they put in more password features into Zoom. That happens when you publish your meeting ID and you're using the same meeting ID all the time and it doesn't have a password protection that's unique. So you can stop this pretty easily. Just don't spread around what your Zoom link is. And then you can also kick people out once they get in. So you have options in that circumstance. It usually happens more to organizations and probably bigger firms than teeny ones, but something to always know how to deal with. I like to have video on for host and participant and to give the option both phone and computer, but you can always change that. And then you schedule it and boom, there it is. You have your link. Now this is from Zoom. Realize that you can actually link Zoom. You can add it on to most of your calendaring programs. So I have a button in Outlook and this automatically creates and is simplified just by a button in my Outlook calendar when I schedule a meeting too. And I think that's a little bit easier to do because we're used to it. So I mentioned the password. Here's how you make it more secure. And I know there's questions coming in. Keep bringing them in. It's great. So other security features. Understand that that bottom bar is really where you're going to control everything from, unless you're sharing a screen and then it pops up to the top. It has a security piece here for folks who are the host. So if you're not the host, you're not going to see these features, but you can limit people sharing their screen, chatting, or renaming themselves. And that's really good if you're concerned about people sneaking into meetings, and you can make sure they can't rename themselves, that maybe you cut the chat off because it's distracting. And then the sharing the screen, if you want to be the only person that's sharing the screen, that's where you do it, in the security piece right here. And then you see right below that, remove participant. So that's how you kick someone out. Sharing screen, big deal, right? We want to make sure that we share screens right. This is what it looks like when you click that big green button. It has a bunch of different options and you're like, oh my gosh. And that's just in the basics. And if you have lots of things open, sometimes you won't even see the thing that you want there because you have too many things open and it's trying to figure out which one you want to do. If you do this first one right here, that's just screen, realize that that's sharing your entire screen, your entire computer, everything that you bring up and put down. So I tend to not do that. I tend to set myself up and say, okay, I'm just going to be showing them these slides. I want to just share my slides. Here's my slides, the PowerPoint right there. I pull it up, I test it before you guys get on, because I can then put it in my viewer style, and then it's set to run. And I can just pop right back into it when you guys are ready to go. But realize that you can share lots of different screens. And don't forget to look at the very, very bottom where you can share computer sound and optimize screen sharing for video clips down here. This is really good if you want to show a video. You need to click those two things so that you're making this video work better in your program. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're already at 20 minutes. That goes so fast. Notice too, there's advanced features here, and some of the things that you can do from there are use a whiteboard. Now, again, if you're using the whiteboard, it might save that data. So then we're getting into security level. It's about like a document. I think that this is important to practice with, right? If you're going into court, you're going to practice what you're going to say. If you're going into Zoom court with your judges, you should be on that platform practicing how to share your screen and how to prep what it is that you want to present to them. I think that I saw a question come in before the program started about split screen. I don't know where split screen is. I'm not sure that you want to use it, because you got to think about what size screen they have in front of them. You can't have your video up over the side here while you're sharing the screen and they can see that view, if that's what you mean by split screen. But if it exists, it's going to be in those advanced features up here at the top. So mess around with it and see. I mentioned it looks a little bit different. It pops that bottom bar up at the top when you share. There it is. Boom. I just do that because it looks kind of funny and you got to get used to it. Notice too, stop sharing right here. Big and easy to do. Stop share. Wait room. This is super important for protecting confidentiality if you're working with clients. I often have people coming in one after another. So I make sure that I enable the wait room so they don't just come in the room automatically when somebody else is in there, because I don't want them to see somebody or see a name. And then I have a little chime that when they pop into that box, I notice. I put my participants and my chat up on the side. When that next person comes in, if we're at time, I say, oh, we're at time. I'm sorry, I gotta let you go. And I wait for that person to leave before I let the next person in the room. It looks like down below here. And I click the admit button in the participants field. If it's not time, I kind of go, oh, my next person's queued up. Can we wrap up? What do you have on your mind? Something like that. Saving the chat. This is a real boon for me. When I found this button, this is in the chat part next to everyone, then file, 3 dots. That top one is save chat if you have something written in there. And this is permitted by your host. You can save the chat. And I think that this is great when you're working with clients, because you go through a bunch of things. Maybe you shared your screen and you work through a document, but maybe they shared certain links with you or certain information, or you shared things with them. Save that chat and then copy and paste it into your case file so that you have a complete case file. Mention breakout rooms. I don't know that you guys are going to use these a lot. If you are, you ask a question about it, because I don't know that it's super important for most. So these are some of the most important points. And I know that I'm over time, so I'm going to do my best to keep this to just a couple minutes, but people have certain things that they do that drive people nuts in video conferencing. So try not to do these. These are the things that in a survey showed up as the most annoying: background noise and distractions, joining late, participants talking over each other, repeating information over and over. That's kind of just something that people struggle with. And things. And then I think I put this in myself, feeling incompetent or uncertain in the product. It makes people anxious, and then it makes them crabby. So that's why you want to stay cool and calm when people struggle. And try to not have that be you. You know, when I have technical difficulties, I'm like, oh well, because it happens all the time. Follow an agenda, even if it's short. Tell them exactly what's going to happen in the meeting, and then when you get in the meeting, follow it. Stay on time. Get off before or during when you say you're going to. Here I'm going over in my time, but I'm still telling you to do what I say, not what I do. Know where your mic is, because most of the time it's right here in our platform, in our laptop. So you want to make sure that you're not keyboarding too much with the microphone on. Mute yourself when you're not on. And really, if you have more people than a few in that meeting, mute yourself when you're not the main person talking, because it sort of turns the table over to somebody else. When you turn off your mic, that's the indication that you want to actually put something in there. But make sure that your mic isn't hot with the kids running around. That's tough today sometimes, but try. And then try not to rustle papers. And this can be really important when you're presenting to a court or somebody else who's doing a deposition. You know, we don't think about what it sounds like on the other side. So you got to think about that. Slow down. I have the Gilmore Girls because I don't think anybody talks as fast as they do. But in this medium, especially when there's a lot of people, it's important to slow down in the conversation and be a little bit more differential and specific when you're talking to certain people. I think chatter gets more exclusionary, especially when you're in a situation like these guys, where a few people are online and a few people are in a meeting room. But just make sure that everybody is included in whatever conversation you have, because I think you can get excluded online more than you can in a room. And use specific names of people, because you can't turn to them on the video. They don't know you're looking at them. I'm looking at you now, Laura. You know, use their names directly and check their understanding and reiterate it in multiple different fashions. We do this with clients because it just is necessary to make sure, you know, they're stressed. They don't ever hear of everything. They hear about 10% if they're stressed. So we write it down and then we reaffirm it in our client portal and our other places to make sure they hear us. Working meetings, what I mean by that is getting over your own self-consciousness of using the product, sharing that screen with whatever you're working on, and just doing it while you're there. Man, this really, really works. And if I had had this and I was using this when I was in practice, I would have saved at least 90% of the time that I spent going back and forth on the phone with clients telling me changes they wanted to do, making the changes, sending them back, asking again what changes, if there's anything. I just would have saved so much time. I do it now and it really works. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. See, this is when I really wish that people were in front of me and I could hear them. We only went over 6 minutes. What's the first question, Laura? Hit me.
Charity, first of all, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for all that information. I just wanted to highlight a few things you said that I think are important, especially important to remember: to stay calm, to test out your options ahead, and to really practice and look at the settings. That was also helpful how you showed us where to find advanced settings. We have a lot of fantastic questions come in. A lot of them first will go into talk about recording. People want to know, how can you tell if you're being recorded? How can you prevent others from recording?
Oh, great question. So you can tell when you're being recorded because it says recording at the top, and it shows that for everybody. Only certain people, only hosts should be able to record. And so you can limit who has that ability as well. I'm actually just going to share my screen right now so I can show you what I'm talking about. Oh, and it's going to have a great view of me. Hold on. This is lovely. I get over my self-consciousness by making faces like this right there in front of you guys. But look right up here. We're recording this and you can see it right there. And then I have a record button down here because she's given me certain powers, but you probably do not on yours. Okay, next.
Wonderful, thank you. People have
Oh,
other questions.
oh, I will add, you can't actually know if they're recording with a video like this, looking at you. And if they take a picture, for example, and I think, screenshots, and that does unnerve us. That's one of the reasons that you might want to, have protocols around it. Go ahead.
Wonderful. Next one, there's been several questions about share screen. For example, people want to know, when should you use it? When do you want to start it and stop it? They also want to know, how can you upload a screen that doesn't permit people to see the entire computer contents? So you talked a little bit about this before, but if you could talk more on this, it'd be great.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to actually share my screen to talk about this. So what I'm doing right now is I'm opening the document I want to share with you. And when I click on this, a whole bunch of different things come up. My snippet, the document I just opened, the Zoom. At the very top, it has screen. And that blue one, this is in my slides too, that blue one that's highlighted as screen would share your entire desktop. So they're only going to see what you're actually looking at. But I have actually seen people accidentally be in meetings with me and not realize that they can share, and they start sharing their screen and they get confused whether they're logged on and they're running around their old desktop. You don't want to be that person. So just pick, when you get that selection of different things, how the thing that you want to share pulled up, and just pick the one that you're going to share and go in and out from different things. So now I'm going to share with you this certain program that I worked on, and we're going to do this together. And actually, whenever I do panels with people, this is what I do. I share my screen and we work through our different outline. You can do the same thing with forms that you're working on with a client, with estate planning documents that you're working on with a client, with your staff when you're planning a different project or you're assigning roles. You get in there, and this is how you have a working meeting. You say, oh, okay, well, what do we want to talk about? Charity is going to talk about this part. Now, it does mean that one person has to be a scribe, and I'm terrible at talking and being the scribe at the same time, but you slow down the meeting a little bit. And this is one of the best uses for online. I mean, really, I'm telling you, if you start using this, it's going to change your life with your clients.
Wonderful. And when people are saying when you would want to share your screen, I'll add a couple thoughts and I'll invite you to say more. I think it's if you have documents behind you that would enhance what you're saying, and so it's necessary for other people to see the presentation. Do you have other thoughts on that?
Yeah, sometimes when I'm in a big meeting and I'm having a conversation that I want to see people's faces, I don't share the screen during that period. I only do it when we get to that working meeting part of the conversation. And I think that if you're building rapport with your client, or your potential client, and you're really wanting to connect, that's not a time to be sharing the screen. Even though you can't, you know, hi Laura, I can kind of look at you because you're next to me. Though I don't know if you're on that side for me. You can kind of do that, but you can connect better when you have a little bit bigger picture of people. But especially if you have a lot of people on the meeting. Now this is a webinar version, so you guys are all tucked over here. But if you're in a meeting and we could have all you guys, you'd have different pages that you'd have to kind of scroll through and see those other people. And if they're not sharing their screen, then it gets a little bit chaotic. If they are, it gets chaotic. Share your screen when you're working on stuff, and when you are the person that is going to drive that conversation. And that's one of the things, is you can actually have a little bit more control and power in that meeting if you do share your screen and kind of take control of where you're going to go.
Wonderful, thank you. Next group of questions we have is about microphones. Do you have suggestions on what types of microphones or where maybe to look to find some?
Oh, you know what? I know I'm going to share these slides after the fact, and I have a little write-up that I did on some different microphones and headsets, and it was for ALA members, but I'll share it with you guys. I know there's plenty of ALA members out there in Massachusetts. You guys got a great immigration bar out there, but for any of you other guys, I'll make sure that you have that. It's just a short article. There there's, you know, a lot of the time you do have a pretty decent microphone in your laptop. And then a lot of so my video camera has microphones on the side that I could use as well. But if you're going to do something that you want to do online, you want one that's a little bit cleaner and more professional. So um, there's a few of them on that. I'll definitely send that out with the materials. Let me make a note so I don't forget.
Thank you, Charity. That is so generous of you. We really appreciate it. I will say too, if there are people watching who practiced immigration law and don't yet know about AILA, please check it out. It's a wonderful organization. So I know that, as Charity said, we have a lot of Mass people practice in that area, and it's a good resource. All right, next we have some thoughts about alternative platforms. First, do you have thoughts on Microsoft Teams?
Oh, so I use both Teams and Zoom. We have both at AILA, and it's interesting. I've kind of thought of them head to head and compared and contrasted them. I find Teams not as user friendly, but I think they're working on it. And it's funny, the more they work on it, the more it starts looking like Zoom. So there you go. The features are similar. They're in similar places. I think that one thing that Teams has that's a nicer feature is it has this little fog thing that you can do with your background. So it makes it just look like misty, which looks like you have a cool picture with a certain f-stop that like it looks really nice. And I wish Zoom had that because I do it and you'd be like, oh, she has such a nice background. So that's one feature I like in Teams that I think is better. It for quality of actual, how it is to use. They are getting almost equal, but Teams, when everybody first went on the work from home, I had a couple people on Google Hangouts. We were on Teams, we were on Zoom, and then we had some other Zoom users. And the Zoom always worked, and the Google Hangouts and the Teams did not. So I think they're improving. I don't think that they're always there, but I do think that it depends sometimes on at geographically in the country. I don't know why, but it just has something to do with that too. Kind of like cell phone, AT&T versus Sprint depends on your location. I also think Teams works much easier for internal meetings and folks that we're working with. And I have not found it to be as easy to use with external parties. So it's a great tool when we meet on a lot of the time. We'll just use Teams. It doesn't have as good a video quality and it gets a little bit more juddery, but we can easily call each other if we're an internal team. If we're with external people, it's not as easy. So weigh what your uses are and also weigh the costs, right? How much are we going to invest in? If we already have Microsoft Office 365 and Teams is available, maybe we put up with a certain amount of not working quite as smoothly and not looking as perfect for all those other features that you like to work with. Or maybe we invest in Zoom because we're going to be working with clients and we know so many of our communications will be external. Last thing I'm going to say that I do think Teams has a little up on than Zoom, and some of the other video conferencing has this as well that I think is like super cool is it will keep your chat with your video if you record it and you'll have your chat next to it, and then you can also add your documents that you were working on. So you were working on a spreadsheet with everybody and you can plug it right in there and then everything is in that one team place, which is cool, right? And you can have external users in Teams, don't get me wrong, that's possible. It's just we've tried with our committees and we have troubles with it. And I think that it's Microsoft is used by too many people and that's part of it. They're like a victim of their own popularity. They'll have another login and then they got to open an incognito window, and explaining what an incognito window I'm just so tired of doing. So sometimes it makes sense to just have another product, but head to head they both have interesting qualities. Zoom, easier to use though. It is. It just is.
Wonderful, thank you.
That, Laura, you and I have seen Legaler too, and Legaler is interesting. They really are aiming to have like as if you're going to a law firm. So they'll have these little conference rooms that you go into, and it has a really interesting, like kind of professional, sleek feel to it. But on the back end, you got to use it, and it's a little hard to set up. So, cost benefit analysis. Sorry, I interrupted you, dear.
No, that's perfect. This is right on the same thread too. So thinking about cost benefit analysis, and you just said too that Microsoft Teams may be something they already have with Microsoft 365 accounts. We had a question about looking for free and other affordable alternatives. This person noted that if they want to use more than the free 40 minutes on the free account with Zoom, they have a small firm, what options are available for affordability so they can be on separate Zoom meetings at the same time for longer than the 40 minutes.
Oh yeah, because the free version gives you 40 minutes only for 2 people. I think it goes longer, but if you want any more than 2 people, then you end up cut off at 40 minutes, which doesn't look cool. So a few different ideas. One is think about if you already have a product that does it, like Office 365 Teams. Two is maybe invest in one account. It's not a huge investment on Zoom. Or three, maybe look at that doxy.me, the one that I had on that screen about security. I'll put it in your chat. Doxy.me. That one is actually free. And Legaler, the other one, is free for, is that, I can't remember if it's a .com. I think it's .com. That one is free for a year, but that was started in March. So you'd have a little while on it. I do think too, though, I'm of the theory that you get what you pay for. And you should be investing in technology for your firm that you're going to be using on a regular basis. And I don't think this is going away. We had a big old push behind us that forced us to make some changes, but you got to see the silver lining here. You got to see the silver lining, and maybe investing in it is worth it.
That makes very good sense. We have some more follow-up questions on the sharing screen. Someone asked if you could go back to how you introduce the documents on the shared screen.
How I introduce the documents. So let me just go back to this screen. I'm not sure that I totally understand that question. Where's my share screen? There it is. I'm not going to have this in presenter mode, but you guys know what it is. Actually, we can just go from current screen and then we'll put it in presenter mode. Nope, it's not going to like me. It's not going to let me do it. We're going to go back this way. Okay, share screen. So you're looking and you want to share your screen. You're going to have on your computer the things that you'll be sharing. If it's a slew of different documents, for example, then you can have each one of those documents lined up, maybe numbered so that you know which ones to come up, or maybe in one document, you've combined them all in one PDF and you're ordering them in the order that you're going to share them in. And then you have them open in your screen and you've closed access windows. Here with this picture, I have this top one is screen. So that would share your entire screen, all the things that you have open. Your actual desktop would be available to see as long as it's what you're actually looking at. It's what they're looking at too. This snip is just something that I pulled off in that moment. This is my list of all my files. Again, you don't want to share that whole thing probably, but you could. This is a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation. This is my calendar. Again, don't want to share that with everybody. This is just a document. This is the website. So if you pick Google, if you pick your website one, it will share all your different website tabs that you have up. So you could have ordered 7 different tabs that you're going to be sharing. When you select one, here screen is selected. That's why it's blue. But if File Explorer was selected, that would be blue around the outside of it. Then you go down to the bottom there and you share. If you're sharing a video, don't forget down here at the very bottom, the share computer sound and optimize screen sharing for video clip, because that will make it more seamless and less choppy for people to watch. And when you select the right one, if you're just doing that one and not the entire screen, you hit this share. And yes, I'm avoiding this iPad and iPhone because that's just if you're on your iPad or iPhone, then you'd be sharing what you're working on. So you could do this from your phone, and you could select sharing your phone, and then you'd be sharing your phone screen too. Click that share, and then it brings it up for them. And then it pops up the bar that was at the bottom up at the top for you like this. So in this instance, I am sharing with people this is actually a slide. Oops, sorry. It's a little hanky. I got two of those on my screen now, so I'm trying to figure out which one I'm in. This is a slide that had a Word document on it, and a title down here for people to see. And then for my view, it had all of my how to actually control the program up yonder here. So I only had one participant because I was doing a little tester. But for you guys, there's 59 participants. I see yellow because there's a chat in the box. There's a question. And then I have this stop share. And I know it's being recorded because I have this little button that is red that goes boop, 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 boop. She's recording to the cloud. And this is why you want to get in there and test, right? Because I can explain it to you. I can show you these sections, but there's nothing like actually going in and messing around with it yourself.
Excellent. And to follow up on where you showed us the snipping tool, I think that could be one possible answer for this question. People want to know about taking a screenshot of something that they want to remember later from the meeting.
How to take a screenshot? Well, I use my trusty little snipping tool, which I love, love, love. Let me see if I can take a screenshot of my little snipping tool.
That's sort of going meta, using the snipping tool to snip itself.
I put mine down in my bottom there, and then and you can share it. You know, if you have a snipping tool and you've taken a little snip, it'll have one of those up there for you to share. So share it, and then so this is the bottom of my screen. So that's the part of Zoom, and these are the other different products that I use often that I have down there, and my snipping tool is right there. And God bless the snipping tool. I use that thing daily, probably 10 times. I'm a heavy snipper. I love my snipping tool.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Next question was about if you have one account but multiple attorneys. So does investing in one account allow multiple users to use Zoom, i.e. if each lawyer has different client or court Zoom meetings at 10 a.m., can we all use the same professional account?
So you can have separate accounts that are non-paid ones, and they can all access. You can actually access Zoom just fine if you have a link that somebody has shared with you. You can use it online without having an account, but it does make sense to have an account, even if it's just a free version account, for doing things like the court's going to share a link with you and you want to be able to access it. You should all be able to do that individually, even if there's just one account in the firm. But for that account, if you are the host and you are sending it out to different people, that only that one meeting can be used at 10 a.m. unless you're doing sort of a joint breakout session. So we just barely touched on breakouts in the slides, and there is a feature where you can set up many different rooms that are coming off of one room. The issue with this is you maybe could do it for a clinic, but you probably wouldn't want to do it for like 4 clients. Yeah, come on in this room. Oh, hi. I mean, it's a little like the waiting room, but you got your name on it. I'm a real big fan of protecting confidentiality kind of obsessively. So you could do it this way. You could have the different breakouts breakouts, but maybe you could stagger them so they're not all coming in the room at the same time. Have somebody, your receptionist could control those and say, "Oh, welcome, Mr. Smith. I'm going to put you in the room with Suzanne," and then she lets the next person in, or he lets the next person in and puts them in the next room with Mr. Johnson. But it gets a little hanky. Not uncommon to have one at the beginning, one account, and kind of share it, but then you got to do some funny scheduling so that you're not, using it up. So get free accounts for the other people that don't need to schedule and be the host of the particular meeting. And then as you need people to have those same meetings, you're going to get another account for different people. We had a shared one for our program for a long time, but when we went remote, actually it's a little bit before that, when I started having regular office hours, which is something I do every other week with ALA members, it just made sense for me to have my own. And so, it becomes an investment, but it's one that you use a lot. I don't need a phone number anymore. That's the truth. I don't need a phone number anymore. I have phone numbers through here. So, you could think of other ways that you could cut costs, I think.
Excellent. Thank
That's my thought.
you. Next question is, can they be a member of Zoom via multiple entry points? For example, being a member via 2 groups where they belong to, and also having access to Zoom via 2 different email addresses. I believe that each Zoom is tied to one email account. Is that right?
I did not understand that question. Can you say it again?
Sure. And if the person who wrote it wants to type clarification as we're going along, we can do that too. So this person wants to know if they can be a member of Zoom via multiple entry points. And they said, for example, if they are a member of belonging to 2 groups and then wanting to access Zoom from 2 different email addresses.
I think you could, so you can have multiple accounts on multiple email addresses, but it's one account per email address. I'm wondering why the concern is I mean, if you're using a different email address, you're going to come in as a different individual, right? You can name yourself something different, but are you thinking of coming in at the same time from 2 different addresses? You don't need to do that. I mean, I can't think why you'd need to do that. So, um, yeah, you can have as many accounts as you need, 1 account per email address. You got to pay for them unless you're doing the free ones. You want to use the one that you use. If you have one though, you want to use it for everything and have it all the time logged in. It's just easier. I do actually when I do ones that I start and I do ones that other people start, and I just put them in my calendar and I click on the link in there and then I say open in Zoom and it'll open my Zoom account, but it'll be for whatever meeting somebody has sent me or my own. And David Rubin asked how you can reach me in the future. I'm going to put my email address here. CANASTASIO at ALA.org. You said Isla. I have members that say Isla too. I always think it's cute. I mean, I don't know if it matters.
No,
it's an acronym.
That is good to know.
Well, I mean, they're both nice, but it is actually an acronym. It's AILA, but nobody says that. I do that with my bar too, WISBA. As if WISBA is anything, right? Any other questions? We got a few more minutes.
Yes, we have some more. I'll try to narrow it down. This one I think will affect a lot of people. They say Zoom participants sometimes forget that they're muted. Do you have hints or best practices for signaling to the unintentionally muted that they are? I'll just start with myself. If I'm on with someone who's muted, I'll do something like this, trying to say I can't hear them. What do you think, Charity?
Oh, Laura, that's a good one. I wish I did that. I always go, you're muted. Make you muted. But I have seen one guy wrote a little note and he'd hold it up. You're muted. That's kind of a smart way. Also, if you're the host, remember you can unmute them. So at the top, if you hover over a picture or if you hover over them in the participant one, you can mute somebody from there or you can unmute them. You can always unmute or mute yourself from there. One thing that's really important too is if you have participants by phone, this is announced to them when they log on, but they often miss it, is they can use *6 to mute themselves and *6 to unmute themselves. So they'll do the same thing again. And a lot of the time they don't know that they can use it again to go the other way. So I always kind of say it. You can unmute or mute yourself. But yeah, I think this is maybe the best one I've seen. I think you have the right instinct there.
Excellent. We had some questions about where do things get saved? For example, where does your chat get saved? Where does your recording get saved? And I think that this would probably be something you determine in settings, but I'll see if you have other thoughts on it.
Oh yeah, this is actually a great question. So if you do that little save chat that I showed you, the little secret thing that if they have that open, which most meetings do, where you can save the chat. I'll save your guys' chat just because I like to know what questions people ask. It saves as a notebook on your desktop, and then I copy and paste it into a document because I just work in Microsoft Word documents more. And then I don't have to, scroll through and do it. I can just tink, tink, and then I can do it later when I'm offline. If you're talking about in your platform, when you do a recording, it should have the chat and the recording. And when it does a recording, it actually does 6 different types. It splits them out for you, and it saves all of them on the platform under the meeting under recordings. There's different little panels. They're very easy to see. You just go to the online one, so it's a little different than the little teeny working through one. You do the online one, same account, more features. And it's nice to know that they save out. They'll have just an audio one for you. So kind of like a little podcast for yourself. They'll have one where your picture and your slides are next to each other. You're a little picture up here and your slides are here. If you're, or whatever you're sharing, whatever you share the screen of will be there. They will have one that is a gallery view with all the participants. This is if you're in meetings, all the participants, different panels there. They'll have one that moves with the speaker. So I would be on the screen right now on that one. And then as soon as you talk, Laura, you would pop up on that recording. And it's just nice to know what it is that you'll actually get from those. And then the chat is supposed to be there. I have had it a couple times. You can mess up your settings and say, don't save that. And so you want to make sure that your settings are right, that you get all those things if you do want the recordings.
Wonderful.
Lot of features there too. And Zoom has a nice feature if you are doing recordings where if you start out and don't set automatic record. This is one thing that I learned. If you set up a meeting, you can select automatically record and it will, but it will record everything from the very, very start of the open. And if people log on and you don't have that wait room design, then they'll log on and it will record people sitting there going, what's going on? I don't know where this person is. And you go, oh, I don't want that. But if you do that, it's not the end of the world because they have a little feature where you can say, I only want to share from 323 to 1681, and it'll cut off the beginning and the end for you, and then you have a share link that you can share with people. It does use up a lot of space, so those are usually recordings that you can't keep a long time. In the online version, you can download them and keep them for a long time, but there's so many features. One of the features that people don't even know about that's possible in Zoom is they have a translator feature. It will bring a translator in and it will automatically make the volume proper so that they are so I'll still be talking and then their voice will just be a little bit higher, but at the same pace as what I'm doing, so that people can focus on and hear the specific translator that they need. And they even have translators working for them. So you can use your own, or you could work with Zoom to actually have their translators do different translations to different languages. Really amazing usability for, especially, I mean, I'm excited about it for immigration lawyers, but anybody that works with people that use foreign languages, anybody that has clients like that, and you're thinking, what do I do? How do I do this meeting? Zoom's got some really neat features for you. I bet some of the other programs do too, but I thought Zooms were probably, I thought they were probably the most advanced when I was doing my research.
That is great. And as you know too, they have so many features. And I know too that Zoom is rolling out more and more features and settings as we go along. So as you mentioned before, to really keep an eye on Zoom page, and you can learn a lot from there as well.
Yeah, it's hard keeping up with the tech. But you know what? It's fun if you like it. I know it's rough on some folks. Uh, the nice thing is this is a fully baked product. You're not in beta testing. You got a product that should work fully for you as long as you have a good internet connection, and you get the basics down. And don't feel like you need to know all these things. These are just possibilities of the things that you could do.
Wonderful.
So I know
I know
we're
we're
about at time, aren't we?
Yes, we
Oh,
are. I thank you so much for your time and sharing with us today and getting through as many questions as you did. This is wonderful. I know we didn't quite get through everyone's question, but you did a phenomenal job getting through as many as you did. We so appreciate your time, your insights, your advice from this charity. We really, really appreciate it. I also want to thank everyone with us on the webinar for tuning in today. I'm glad that you could be here for this special treat with this wonderful national speaker. I also want to note that the recording and slides will be up on our website, masslomap.org, by tomorrow, and to keep an eye out when we have our next webinar for busy lawyers, which will be January 13th, with Bill Gorin, who is an attorney and consultant for the Americans with Disability Act. And the topic will be a short overview of internet accessibility litigation. So keep an eye for that. And Charity,
ah,
thank you so much. And attendees, thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We appreciate you all.
I know Bill Gorin. He's very sharp. Nobody knows the ADA like he does. I do see more questions, and hey, feel free to use that email. And Laura knows my contact information. I'm on LinkedIn too, and I got time, and I love to talk to people about things. So don't be a stranger.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Charity. Take
Good
care,
to see you,
everyone.
Laura. I
So
love
good to
seeing
see
you.
you.
Cheers, everyone. Take care. Be healthy. Be well. Ciao.
Bye-bye.